Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Illustrated Insights and I am Jenny D. Welcome to the Neurodiverse Creative Journal short course. This week's topic is whispers. What do other people think about you? Let's get started. I was watching another tutorial the other day and guess what she started with? You guessed it, writing words on her page. And she said it helped ground her in her creative process and to eliminate the empty page, which is exactly what I use it for. So here I am doing a brain dump about the topic, which is whispers. What do people say about me? Do I even care? Should I care? And as I usually do around about this time in the video, I have to mention I'm not a therapist. I am a teacher who specialises in helping students with the issues that arise from being neurodiverse. And I have decades of creative journaling practice. But back to the page now, I'm just writing down my thoughts using a watercolour pencil. And I really just write whatever comes into my head. Sometimes it's things about the topic, sometimes it's just nonsense. And I use a watercolour pencil because I know that I can go over the top of it with the next layer and everything will be covered anyway. In the next layer I get out my water-soluble crayons, and these are either Windsor and Newton watercolour sticks or Derwent's art bars. And I was definitely in a blue mood today, so I get out a whole heap of different blues, then go over them with too much water usually. Today I found that the blues just weren't intense enough. They just weren't giving me a really good colour background. So I tried going back over the areas that were still quite wet with some of the colour sticks, but it still just wasn't giving me enough colour. So I decided to change tactics. I got out some acrylics, some of them rather cheap and some of them quite expensive, new ones I got today. And I'm going to do another technique which I also really enjoy using for backgrounds. What you do is you get a whole heap of different colours and a kind of wide soft brush. Then you just flick the paint across the page in diagonal directions. And rather than washing your brush in between colours, you blend them together on the page as you swish the brush across the page. I like to use white as one of the colours to give it some really nice, bright, contrasty areas. These new Matisse paints are a very solid colour and they have excellent coverage, but that did mean that my layer below was being completely overwritten by these paints. So I made sure to leave some areas where the previous layer was still visible, because I wanted that layer to still have some relevance. For the next layer, I chose a really translucent paint. So when I lay this paint down, you'll still see some of the paint, some of the colour underneath the white. I'm using one of our masks. This is the Swirls mask. And I dab the paint over the top of the mask. I'm holding this mask quite securely as it is quite a fine mask. And I've also got a brand new stippling brush, which is giving me this sort of pleasant spattery kind of effect rather than an overall paint effect. I really like that. The translucent paint showing the dark areas below gives a really beautiful subtle effect. And of course I dry all the layers well in between. Now I continue building up those layers. I'm using a Jane Davenport Brilliance Blue ink and a spray bottle. And I just spritz the edges of the page to give it a border. I know this ink is going to dry a little paler than it first went on. I want to add a little bit of glint to my page, so I'm using this Reeves acrylic copper paint. I have these hand-carved stamps, which I made some time ago, and I brush the copper paint on top of the stamp and then make marks over the blue background. If you don't have hand-carved stamps, you could use a stencil or a commercially made stamp. It's finally getting to the point where I'm thinking about the focus of my page. So the prompt is whispers and the topic is what do other people think of me? I thought I'd like to illustrate that with some gossiping Victorian ladies. And I'll set one of them apart, and she's the subject of their whispering. I went online and I found some great stock images, some illustrations. These are all royalty free. And I'll leave a link in the description as to where you can download this particular image. I cut them out. And once again, I'm showing the impatience that comes with ADHD here. I'm not being particularly careful about the way I cut out these images. I just kind of go around them, not too carefully. There are still some white bits showing, but I do get into most of the spaces. I glue them in with Liquitex satin gel and a clean sponge. First of all, I spread the satin gel onto the page, put the image down, and then go over the top again with the gel. Unfortunately, this did lift some of the blue paint onto my black and white images, but at least it blends them in with the blue background. It's really important to dry the gel medium really well before going on to the next steps. Georgia designed this terrific healing word stencil, and I realised that one of the phrases would be perfect for this page. Don't trade your authenticity for approval. So I'm using some dark brown paint here, which is a raw umber, and stenciling the words directly onto my blue background. The phrase is big enough that it's going to stretch across the 2 pages across the middle, but that's no problem for this flexible stencil. The paint was a little bit wet, so it did smear under the stencil a little bit. That was my bad, but I can fix that up later with some white highlights. Unfortunately, I picked up a really old Artline paint pen and it was giving me some terrible trouble, but I did manage to get the highlights in. All I do is just run a white line along the right side of every letter, and that helps the letters to pop against the darker background and also tidies up any of those smudges that I made with my not very careful stenciling. Now I need to connect my gossiping Victorian ladies to their poor unfortunate subject. And when I planned this topic, I'd recently watched a journal page being created by Claudette Hosenjager. I hope I can pronounce that right. I'll leave the link to her video in the description. In that video, Claudette paints some smoky tendrils that she calls whispers. Apparently she saw it demonstrated by a lady called Bye Bunny on Instagram, and it was part of her spirits class. I've never seen Bye Bunny's class, and these lines that I'm creating are quite reminiscent of an Art Nouveau type of line that I've used in my art many times before. So I used a white watercolour pencil to sketch in the lines, then tried the stupid old white paint pen to brighten them. I had to paint them in the end, but I really wanted to show these whispers coming from the group of girls and wrapping around the subject of their gossip. I really try hard not to worry about what other people say or think of me. In the end, I know people tend to spend more time thinking about themselves than me, and I'm probably only a fleeting thought. But even though I try not to dwell on it, the truth is, one of my core values is to do things well. So I kind of have to take in what other people are saying, particularly about my work, so that I can use that to improve. I guess the healthy thing to do is to listen to the constructive feedback and ignore the personal opinions. I do want my work to grow and improve, but I know that one of the best ways to do that is to be true to myself, to be authentic. And my neurodiversity, the impulsivity, the distractibility and the forgetfulness, they're all part of who I am. But the good thing is that ADHD has a flip side, well, at least for me. The impulsivity becomes intuitive creativity. The distractibility becomes a real depth of skills and a desire to try new techniques. And the forgetfulness, well, let's just skip over that one. So when it comes time for you to journal, have a little think about those things. Do you need to pay attention to what other people say? Is there a healthy way that you can take what people say and use it to grow? And do remember, What you think people are saying and what they are actually saying are two different things. Sometimes you might need to actually ask what they think of you. Okay, let's see what's happening on this page. The whispers wrapping around this girl look good, but I wanted to give that group on the right something to really gossip about. I wanted the figure on the left to be quite different and to stand out. So I used metallic paints from Coliro to make her really colourful and shiny. I'm quite happy with that page now. So I just add a few little words, whispers, whispers, whispers all around the girls, and now it's time for me to add some meaningful journaling to my page. I thought about the quote and I thought about the prompt, and I tried to express my feelings in words. I hope you enjoyed watching my process, and I hope you like the page as much as I do, but in the end, I like it. I think it expresses my thoughts on the topic in both words and in images. I do hope you follow my lead now and create your own page, whether you recreate this one or make your own. So jump on over to our community in Facebook. I'll leave the link underneath the video. And of course, subscribe if you want to find out what's happening next. Next week, we're actually looking at working memory and we're going to make a game on the page. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.